Hi guys, hello. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Hello Austin, hello South by Southwest. It's been a few years since I've been here and I'm thrilled that this has brought me out. How many folks have been watching Daisy Jones and the Six? This show is amazing. I believe the first 6 episodes are out. Don't hate me, I've seen all 10. They're amazing, guys. Stick around. We'll give some sneak peeks during this panel. As you can tell, we have a lot of chairs to fill here. Yes, I do host my own podcast and I work for MTV and Comedy Central, but today I'm really just another band groupie for Daisy Jones, let's be real. I'm gonna introduce this amazing group. We've got some of the cast, the creators, the writers, the showrunners, everybody. This is gonna be a lot of fun, so thank you again for coming on out. Let's start with the creator, showrunner, executive producer. Give it up for Scott Neustadter. Scott! Executive producer, Lauren Neustadter. Lauren, come on out. Author and producer, this wouldn't happen without Taylor Jenkins Reid. Executive producer, Brad Mendelson. Please give it up for showrunner and executive producer, Will Graham. We have some amazing cast members here with us. You know him, you love him. Sam Claflin, AKA Billy Dunne. Simone Jackson, AKA Nabia B, is here. Come on out. A fellow Josh, I always like that. Josh Whitehouse, AKA Eddie Roundtree. And Sebastian Chacon, come on out. Warren Rojas. And that's all the time we have, I'm sorry. That's my joke for every panel I've ever done. It's so sad. Has anybody been practicing their Hello Austin? I mean, this feels like the venue to do the rock star welcome.
Howdy?
I
have no idea.
No. Congratulations again, guys. This show is so special, and I know the fans, obviously you can feel the love in every room you go into. This is a special one. So let's talk, though. 6 episodes are out. You've worked on this for a long while. You've probably been anticipating this moment for a long while. How have the last couple of weeks been for this group? What are the adjectives to describe?
Surreal.
Amazing.
Anticipated.
Was anybody here anxious, worried? You pour your heart and soul. Okay, Sam. Let's get him on the couch. Sam, what were your fears? What were your?
I think when you sort of let anything you're very, very passionate about and very, very proud of, kind of you release it into the ether. There's got to be a bit of nerves, you know. I think it's obviously a very well loved book, and we only ever want to do our Taylor proud and the audience proud, and hope we don't disappoint. So for me, a huge amount of anxiety building up to kind of the release. But I try to stay away from the chatter on the internet to kind of calm the nerves.
Who here in the group is reading everything? Who here is reading nothing?
Scott Neustadter is reading everything.
I've read a lot of things.
You can't resist.
Oh my.
Luckily, the response has been good.
Yeah,
so.
a lot of passion, which is good. I like passion.
It's really hard to read everything.
It's a lot out there. That's a full-time job.
That's it.
And that's it.
There's a lot of show all buttons, you know, and it kind of like folds out. into
But
all
you
of this
could definitely
madness.
fall down like into the deep end of just looking at what people are saying about this and about that. And I think it is an interesting thing, like Sam was saying, that like there's such a personal connection to a version of this thing that you've imagined, you know, that like for me or for any of us to do justice to that is like, first of all, kind of impossible. But then, you know, we're creating like a whole different thing, something new and interesting. And it's great to see people kind of interact with that, you know.
I think reading the fan tweets is really fun. Like we actually all send them. There are a lot of people from Amazon that are here, and we all just sort of send them to each other because it's so exciting. I mean, we've worked on this thing for so long and care so much. And so actually seeing you guys watching and talking about it and loving it and being surprised and delighted and emotional, it's just, there's nothing better. It's great.
I think also because of the very fervent following for Taylor's book, part of the unique experience for these guys is people are coming in with very strong feelings about the couples in the show.
Yes.
And how they combine or don't combine or what their dynamics are, everything. It's been, I think, a really wonderful but an intense week for everyone.
Taylor, I mean, I can't imagine what this is like for an author. And this starts as the most solitary of pursuits. It doesn't get any more solitary than writing a novel. And now it's the world's. It was the world's when you published the book, but this is a whole nother level, a whole different kind of a thing. Were you prepared for this kind of next wave of enthusiasm and excitement around your work?
I definitely think I know now to brace myself. I think any time you make something that you care about and you put so much of yourself into it, the moment where you press send and let other people read it is always really terrifying. Even if they love it, you're still sort of subjecting yourself to someone else's opinion, whether it's good or bad, which can be a very scary thing. But here's the thing, when I released the book, I was nervous. I just haven't been nervous about this, and I think it's because I have a distance that nobody else here is able to have, because ultimately this is your work. You guys did this, and I can look at it now as a fan first and go, oh, this is really good. Oh, wow. Okay, maybe my book was good. Maybe, I don't know. So I'm not nervous, but I understand why everyone else is nervous.
I think I still have some nerves going on, mostly because there's a new couple on the block, Simone and Bernie, and the book lovers don't know them. So I'm excited to, feels like a little second round of premiere for me the next week.
Yeah, exactly. Next episode, right?
Yes.
So, and we're going to show a little bit of that a little bit later on, a little tease for you guys. I mean, is that something you guys talk about on set? Like, you have a job to do. You have a big job to do, all of you guys on set. Like, do you have to put out of your mind fan expectations when you're in the throes of making this show?
I mean, we spent a long time doing this together. At some point, the only expectations that you have to meet is one another's. You know, like each one of the characters in the band and everybody fills a really specific role in the show, and like you have like a puzzle piece that fits in, and like I felt like it was just kind of inspiring to be around the rest of the cast, and like everyone has their different process, everyone has their different thing that is like, wow, okay, how do I stack up here, you know? So it's just each other's expectations. You can't really think about anything like that.
Well, again, as I said already, and we still have 4 episodes left to debut, you should feel good. #1 on Prime Video globally. The album is #1 on iTunes. Crazy. The #1 selling vinyl on Amazon. The book is #1 on Amazon bestsellers list. So, mission accomplished, guys. I think we're okay.
That was always the dream.
And it's early. We got to keep it going.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're just starting, just out of the gate.
So, talk to me a little bit about the genesis of adapting this. Brad, how do you get involved with getting Taylor hooked up with 2 microphones for Brad? He's that important. Getting this to Hello Sunshine. Why were Scott and Lauren the right fit? Talk to me a little bit about how that happened.
Yeah, Taylor and I talk about and strategize exactly what we're going to do with all of her books and who would be the best person to adapt said book. And this was a very short conversation because Scott and Michael came up immediately, and Scott and I and Lauren and I have been friends for a very long time. And when Scott said yes, I would read it, we were all thrilled. And Scott starts reading it. Lauren is hearing about it in their house. Lauren and I connect. We get the book to Lauren, and it was an incredibly magical weekend because Lauren then sent it immediately to Reese, and Reese read it like the next day, and within 48 hours, we had this amazing package that we were putting together that was undeniable. And we were off to the races.
What did you guys see in the material? When you open that book and you get through it, was it obvious to you what this could be?
Yeah, I think we saw the same thing everybody sees when they read that book. It's just great. You love the characters, you love the world, you're transported to another place that you never want to leave. I think the first conversation we had, you guys might have still been talking about it as a movie. And I had only ever really done movies. That was my experience. But I didn't want to do the 2-hour version of this. I just loved it too much. And I wanted to do the 50-hour version of it.
That was the right call.
And I think that was a pretty easy sort of, way to approach it. And from there, it was, who's going to be the right home for it?
We were
Lauren,
very
you-
lucky that was Hello Sunshine, or that you deemed it to be Hello Sunshine, and that Brad invited us into the party. But no, I mean, for us, it's so rare to read material that doesn't just have one unbelievably compelling female character, but so many. And the relationships between the women in Daisy Jones and the Six are so nuanced and beautiful and complex. And I feel like what was in the pages of that book was so singular and exceptional. And then what Scott and Will and our wonderful writer's room were able to bring to it and bring it to life. Nabi has sort of hinted at one of the things that was added, but I think that the joy in adaptation is always honoring the beautiful book, but then figuring out what are the really interesting ways that we can add some new things so that fans will really enjoy it and feel like they're seeing something even more than they got on the page, right? And then hopefully they're going to go back and reread the book and try to figure out what were the differences. Like, there's so much fun in all of it.
And in this particular case, when you read a book and they talk about music, you just go with it. You say, okay, cool. But the TV show is going to need the music. And that, for us, I think, was such an exciting and cool...
and terrifying.
A crazy challenge. Like, oh yeah, let's just create this iconic rock group. That'll be easy.
Yeah, but we were so lucky. Blake Mills and Tony Berg, our executive music producers, who along with us spent years making this music and making it happen, said in our first conversation, like, this shouldn't sound like any other band for this period. This should sort of sound like an album that got lost under the bed and you found it, but it has its own heartbeat and its own thing. And it was, I think, an incredible experience for us while we were writing the show to literally watch the making of the album and then make the show about the making of the album. I think a lot of things that happened in that process went into the scripts. And
I feel like the guys and Nabia might have interesting things to say about the art of becoming a band.
Easy. You just take
That's
a pill and you become a band. That's it.
I closed my eyes and there, all of a sudden. No, I mean, I think I speak on behalf of the entire band when I say we all had a bit of a journey to go on. None more so than myself and Riley. Neither of us had any musical experience before. The first recording studio I'd ever been in was the one for my audition for this. So it was, there was a huge undertaking, honestly.
Okay, I want to talk to the entire cast about this because it's crazy what you just said and the whole undertaking. But to me, like, and I've had the privilege of talking to Sam for about a decade now. You have kept this a secret to everybody. It seems like that you were this rock god on the inside, apparently.
I really wasn't. They made me into a rock god, if you will.
But did you harbor that? Was there an inner Sam that was like, yeah, I could do that?
I had done musical theatre growing up, and I wouldn't even say to a very high standard, Like, I mean, high school productions. I don't know. I don't know, really. I've done a few really bad movie musical auditions, but what I'm trying to say is I suppose I knew there was a voice in there somewhere that needed molding or a lot of help
with the right molders.
And with the right molders,
Billy Dunne.
We found Billy Dunne. But yeah, I mean, I think that one of the hardest things for me was actually the musical experience I did have was more of a hindrance, because I think Tony Berg spent a lot of time trying to get rid of my vibrato and my like Broadway, he's like Broadway feel. But I think it was just sort of a lot of patience and a lot of understanding and a lot of support and
discipline.
We also had time.
Yeah. Originally, we only had 4 weeks to prepare. I had to learn guitar to record an entire album and learn how to sing, lose weight, grow hair, shave my chest, do an American accent, and it was, my schedule
these
was...
whiny actors,
yes,
always.
It was, no, but I'll just never forget the first day they put a guitar in my hand. I was like, what do I do with this? There's a video that I will release one day, and I'm just going, what is going on? But yeah, it was a whirlwind, and I'm very, very grateful for like the amazing team that they compiled to kind of help me along that journey, and we were obviously very blessed with the pandemic being a delay, a year and a half to learn. So,
so talk to me a little bit. I want to hear from all of you guys about the unique like, what were the auditions like for this? These must have been a very specific and unique kind of audition experience compared to most. Or no? Or was it just another audition, or what?
It was. I think we all had different experiences with our auditions. Different people came in at different times. A lot of I was in the UK at the time. A lot of my auditions were over Zoom at first. The casting department were amazing, and I'm so grateful to them because they allowed me the opportunity to sort of just audition in front of them at first, like 4 or 5 times, and they're saying, before we send this to the producers, we really like you for it, so just try it like this. Could you make him a little bit more grumpy? Maybe you could do a little bit. So they were giving me like tips, you know, and then eventually, you know, it came to then doing, I think I was having dinner with my parents. It was their anniversary, and I went in the kitchen, and suddenly I was getting my mum to read with me, and yeah, there was a few auditions.
This was back in the pre-Zoom Skype days.
Yeah, and then eventually it made it out to LA, and I came and did it in front of like the whole team pretty much. And then there was music auditions, so there was just a lot to cover with this job, I found.
Nabia and Sebastian.
I had a completely different experience. I think I sent a tape out in like December, and then like in February, they're like, "Hey, we'd love you to come into Sound City and play the drums for a couple hours." I'm like, for what? And so I rented a studio and just was like smashing drums like for a while, trying to get back in shape to try to do that. And then I had a call back, and I was shooting another show, and I came into rehearsals, and it wasn't real until I stepped in there, and like everyone has guitars and everyone's sweating, trying to learn these really complicated parts. I'm like, okay, all right, like here we go. Like we're really gonna become a band now, you know?
And there was that point as well where we kept on, like, people kind of come through and we knew that they were trying for Billy, and we were like, is it Billy?
No, exactly. No, exactly.
You are Billy?
I first auditioned with Shaka Khan's Ain't Nobody, and then I did one of my songs, which is one of my most folky songs, and I kept pushing that song till like my last audition with Tony. And musically, I would say the difference, mostly like where we first meet Simone as a soul singer, it was really about making sure that it didn't sound too much like me, because I'm Brazilian Jamaican. I grew up in the 90s, you know, like I listened to Yeba, so my runs, my riffs, my phrasing was very specific. So it's about like trimming that down a little bit in Song for You. And then later on in the disco songs, I was able to like have more free way, especially when it came to, you know, phrasing and making sure it sounded like a black woman was singing, a disco pioneer was singing.
But I think you also spent a lot of time, because Nabi, I think different than everyone else here, did come in with a lot of extensive musical experience, sort of transforming your sound for the 70s and getting to really know that world of disco.
Yes, early on with, you know, when I first got in, the team gave me this 200+ page disco research, and I learned so much about, you know, the early days of disco before it was even called disco. And that was important also to be translated musically.
Right. That was an interesting thing about having the amount of time that we had, was like you get more and more and more specific. And like, yeah, like I was just watching all these different videos of drummers from the 50s, from the 60s, from the 70s, and like, how can I make this more complicated? Like I switched to a traditional grip. Maybe we have a different kind of thing. Maybe, you know, and you just start to like get really comfortable with your instrument in a way that just takes time. You can't do that over the course of a month or something. And like there's a lot of specific choices about the way that all of us move on stage. And like by the time we actually got in a room with each other, we realized after being in a COVID bubble, like we actually have to look at each other on stage and like take cues from each other and be like, you know, like actually like big upping each other. Like when Will would hit a crazy solo, I'm like, you know, So that's also a part of looking real, you know?
And there's something really interesting that you said about something a while ago in a different interview, but we were discussing, you know, we'd all been watching documentaries trying to decide our physicality on stage and how we were going to perform, and then being like, you know, looking at what people were already doing then to try and maybe copy some of those things. But then we were thinking, well, I mean, this was an innovative band at the time, so there's quite a lot of freedom there as well.
What if I invented this move?
Maybe what if I invented this move?
Right.
I just thought it was really funny.
Exactly.
And from the producers, showrunners, writers' perspective, what's your approach in casting? Because you can go a lot of different ways in terms of like,
Sam has to tell his audition.
Okay. What was there trauma involved, Sam? Do you want to lie down? What happened?
It's, do you know what?
How much time do you
This has been a
have?
roller coaster ride. So I came in very kind of flustered because it was all very last minute. I felt I didn't know it was a book and didn't know the story and didn't know who Billy Dunne was. I didn't know any music from the 70s. So I mean, I have no idea why they cast me. I couldn't sing. I couldn't play a guitar. But basically, yeah, I came in and they asked me to prepare a song, and I chose Elton John's "Your Song," thinking that was very Billy Dunne. Anyone who knows the song, it's very not Billy Dunne. But yeah, I got a shake of the head. Like, no, it's not going to work. They came in with "Come Together." Do you know this song? I was like, yeah, Michael Jackson sang that, right? Like, it's the Beatles, Sam. I was like, okay. I can only imagine what was going through like your guys' heads at this point, going, "Wow, okay." But yeah, for some reason they took a punt, and I don't know why to this day. But no, I'm very grateful. Honestly, they saw something, and and I think the fact that I'm pliable. You can tell me to stand anywhere or do anything, and I'll say yes. Okay, I'm a yes man.
Wow. There you go.
That's it.
It wasn't dissimilar to when Riley went in to Blake and Tony. I mean, Tony put her on a microphone for like the first time in her life, and he called us afterwards, and he said, "It's not polished, but there's something there that I can work with that is special." And once he said that, it was kind of like, okay, well, that's what we're looking for. We're not looking necessarily for seasoned veteran musicians. We're looking for people that they can work with, they can bring out this sort of magic. And Sam had a lot of magic to bring out.
That's an interesting way of putting it, Scott.
We can all
All
laugh
that
about it
magic.
now because it turned out so well.
But I do think both for the process of making the show and the music, part of what Scott's saying is really important. Something that Lauren always said from the start of the process was like, we want people to feel like they're on the bus with the band, and we don't want to have it be so polished that you lose the humanity and that feeling of really being on the ride. With everyone, you kind of want to see the imperfections, and that's part of the beauty of it.
I believe so. Was Riley cast first? Okay.
Riley was cast first.
So Taylor, your perspective on the casting process, like how involved did you want to be? Did you kind of take a step back? And there must have been some surprises and excitement along the way when you're presented with like, this is who we think it should be.
Yeah, I mean, I was really excited to find out the answers to these questions, I think, in much the same way that the readers were. I have these people in my head. I've lived with them for a long time. And that question of how you take a character on a page and make them three-dimensional, it's something that I've always had such respect for. Before I was a writer, I was going to be a casting director, and I worked in casting for 4 years. So actors and what they bring to a part is, I mean, I studied it. And so with each one, it was just really, really thrilling to see this character that I thought that I knew take a slightly different shape that becomes more complex because it involves the nuance of the actor and their physicality and themselves that they bring to it. And look, I think it's a really good show. I think part of the reason it's a really good show and couldn't be a really good show unless this was true is that every single person in this is perfectly cast, and the chemistry that they all have is really remarkable. And I think a show is made or broken on that piece alone. So I was very, very invested and watching from afar and very pleased.
I mean, it's a unique circumstance for the actors, I would expect, because you have a lot of resources at your disposal. You can go back to documentary footage of actual bands. You can go to the book. You can go to your showrunners and writers, et cetera. Like, did you go to Taylor with any questions? Was she a resource? Or?
I remember running into you at the zoo. Yeah, my kids were in LA. I was sort of full Billy Dunne. I think
such
I was
an
on a
LA
break, and
thing.
I was in costume. I think I even had like part of my costume on because I was had like a few hours off the set. And I was
Billy Dunne is pretty incognito as a cop.
I just remember you going, Sam, Billy. I was like, hey, I'm at Griffith Park Zoo. This is great. It's like, good to see you. But that was like the first time.
No, well, it was also funny because we were like a little bit behind you, and my husband was like, oh, that's Sam Claflin up there. And I was like, I'm sure he's busy. And my husband was like, that's rude. You need to go say hi. And Brad lives a life of telling me to go say hi to people because I won't. But what was really cute about that moment in particular is my daughter was with me, and my daughter is very invested in Daisy Jones and the Six as a band. She knows the story. She asked to read the book, and I was like, you're 6. But she I as a bedtime story have told her all of my books, and so with Daisy Jones in particular, she was very, very invested, and there were a couple of moments like I told her over 3 nights, and it was like Daisy Jones Part 1, Daisy Jones Part 2, and there were just many times where she was like, wait, does Billy, and so to meet Sam, I was like, that's Billy Dunne, and now she's like, I know Billy Dunne. She really just feels like very invested, and so she wears Daisy Jones t-shirts to bed, and she listens to the album, and I don't listen to the album that often because it's very disorienting for my brain. My brain cannot process what I'm hearing, but every time I turn on the car, the phone starts playing Daisy Jones because it's all Lila wants to listen to. She's only met Sam, but she's very, very proud of all of you.
Now your daughter's spoiled. She's going to expect to meet like Harry Potter in the wild and like everybody.
She has a totally skewed understanding of how the world works that I did not grow up with. There are times where I'm like, that I didn't meet a famous person until I was like in my 20s, and she's like, that doesn't make sense to me.
I will say we were all in New York for the 92nd Street Y right before the show came out. And it was just this like really interesting thing because for so many of us, we had lived with these songs. I said I had them in a Dropbox on my phone for such a long time. And our kids actually knew every word to every song and would sing along. But it was this moment where we sort of said at our dinner, like, this is the last moment that it's just for us. Like it's about to be for everyone. And it's been such an exciting thing, but it was like in that moment that it felt so real. Yeah. And then when it was #1 on iTunes, I just my nickname is Mom. So I just sent an email to the cast that was like, you did it. Like, #1 on iTunes, guys. Daisy Jones and the Six is a real band.
That was also a crazy thing because that was our first interaction with like the public who are consuming this, people who are fans and whatnot, and like just seeing like the joy and the passion surrounding that. And like I know my little brother who lives in Brooklyn came to the show, and he wanted to run up to give me a hug, and I almost watched him get knocked out by security.
You've made it when.
That really would have put a capstone on the night.
But I feel like to what you're saying, the music is so good, and it's very exciting to experience people hearing it, because they've had this question of what does this band sound like, and now we have an answer. And I feel like we're going to get a little bit more of a taste of that next week too, because one of the things I'm really excited about is that you may have thought if you read the book that you're going to get the only music you're going to get is Daisy Jones and the Six, but you're also getting Simone's music and the episode that comes up and Simone's song. I'm just very excited for people to hear what Simone sounds like. I think they're going to really, really love it. And also, you can dance to Aurora for sure, but like when Simone shows up, you got to put 4 on the floor.
So is it the coolest thing in the world or the uncoolest thing in the world to listen to your own song like on a jog or at the gym? Like, are you allowed to do that, guys? Can you listen to the music?
I have to say, it's like listening to a voicemail. I'll never forget being in the recording studio and actually Tony taking all the music down, so it was just my vocals isolated, and I was like, that is the worst thing I have ever listened to. But I'm also one of those actors that can't stand watching himself, so it's like I don't, I think
it's all
each to
checks
their
out,
own.
yeah.
But my kids similarly love the soundtrack, and I do. I sort of grew to love it, to the music, not so much my voice in it. But like I think Blake and Tony and I mean all the people that came in to collaborate. I mean it was just really wonderfully done, and I feel honored to have had the opportunity to sing on it. Honestly,
I think another thing about that is that we have heard those songs thousands of times. I think like, and it's almost like it kind of triggers like a Pavlovian response, like oh shit, like I have to be at the drums right now. What am I doing? Especially when we're on set. Like at some point when we were doing the concert scenes, it was like 4 a.m, and you get up from a nap on a couch and you're like, which song are we playing? Okay, let's go. Like, and you know, it's just you have to just lock in immediately like that. You know.
But it's also worth saying, because I think when you watch the show or you listen to the album, it sounds kind of like effortless in a way.
It does.
That I think the first time that we all talked, that we were like, okay, well, we're gonna make an album that is stands with the greatest albums of the 70s, and that's cool. No problem. And Blake and Tony and what they did and the incredible group of songwriters they brought together to do it is such an enormous gift. And has put so much emotion and feeling into the show, and then also the crazy amount of work that these guys all did, each in their own stories, to make that believable and beautiful. It's hard to even convey to you how much that took from both sides.
I will also say the Soldier Field performance that all of you will watch when you watch the finale was the highest degree of difficulty. I feel like this is sort of what Seb is talking about, because we started shooting. We would sort of get everything set, but we couldn't actually shoot until it was completely dark. So we started when we lost the light, and we shot straight through until the sun started sort of like peeking out, and we couldn't do it anymore. So everything that you're going to watch, it was a week of us basically being nocturnal, but these guys all performing in the middle of the night. So that was, I mean, it was wild, but also I really do feel like it was the best time of our lives.
It was interesting.
I wasn't
shooting,
there
like,
for the whole thing, but I remember there was a day we went from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. Wasn't it? A few days like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, shooting the tour scenes, especially, like we would be playing one song and then a quick change of costume, put on a new vest, you get sprayed down with baby oil, and then like we're playing a different song, and now we're in a different city, and you're like, and like you don't really even know how it's gonna come out because it's moving so fast. But then seeing like the tour one venue after the other, you're like, oh wow, okay, cool, this is like a show or something. You know?
Why? I think maybe you should explain why they spray you down with baby oil.
So that was just for me. No. So we're all supposed to be sweaty. We're playing these long shows, and I don't really wear clothing in this show. So like everyone's getting
selling it to just baby oil for you. That was
just
it.
baby oil. I think that's exactly. So
The pre-drum.
So it would be like just a quick spritz between takes, and
You
keep
should have seen him
awake.
backstage spraying down even before this. It was weird. And then
Exactly.
we made him put
I have
clothing
a bottle in my pocket.
Yeah.
Really good baby oil sponsorship going
Johnson
on here.
Johnson, where are you at?
We had a system
Yeah,
as
please.
well. We had a system on those night shoots when we were performing. Sometimes it was snippets of songs and another snippet of another song, but we would have to shoot everything that was going to happen on that stage all in that one night. And it was essentially like playing like a 9-hour-long show, which a lot of bands don't really tend to do. They just normally play for like maybe an hour or something. But it got to a point, at least for me, where, we'd learned the songs so well that, at first I was really trying to listen. It's like, okay, so we're doing the 30 seconds from Regret Me, and then we're doing the 45 seconds, but coming in from the 15th second of the, okay, cool, okay, I'll go in my trailer, remember that. And then in the end, I was just like, you know what? It doesn't really matter. Just let the click track come in.
Right.
And then it'll go, and the first note, you just go, okay, I know what it is.
I know which one. That's Regret Me, isn't it?
Let's show a little bit of what we've been talking about, okay? This is actually from an upcoming episode. This is episode 8, so it's a little sneak peek for you guys. Here's a clip from Daisy Jones and the Six.
Hey.
His little guitar. Love it. I have to say, credit where it's due, because Joseph, the Steadicam operator, through all of the concert stuff, I've never seen anything like it. The guy should be a Greek
He's
god.
also massive,
And
like a built individual running
Joseph
around.
also did the thing in can I say it in Greece? I can say it. Okay. Where everything had to be carried up mountains with mules. So
No sweat.
He was doing the thing.
Carrying everything himself.
Yes, he was.
The context here, without spoiling too much, is that next week we go away from the world of the band and we shot on an island where Leonard Cohen ran to in the 1970s that has no cars. So all of our equipment was on donkeys. And donkeys sometimes took the actors to work. And it was a fascinating experience for all of us.
And we're going to take a look at a clip from that episode in just a second. But I do want to talk a little bit about some of the particular aspects of your characters. I mean, for instance, look, there have been, as there always are, some changes from the book. And, you know, one of them is Sebastian, Warren Rhodes to Warren Rojas. Take some pride in kind of bring that Hispanic heritage to this character. And how much did you influence the take on the character, you think?
I mean, that was something that Warren Rhodes is like the whitest name on the planet. I felt like that was immediately something that I wanted to talk about. You know, I threw out a couple of different names. Rojas is actually a name that's in my family. And I thought that, you know, I did a lot of research on white American bands that have like a Latin member that does anything, and it didn't really happen that frequently. You know, there's maybe one or two occasions in which that was possible. And so, you know, in the show I play with timbale sticks. You know, I figured he's influenced by mambo musicians in the 50s and 60s, and like, and especially with Denise, the costume designer. Like, I have like Aztec jewelry and like Native American beads on, and like serape vests with like donkeys on the back, and I think like taking every opportunity to make that a part of the character without making it like his whole thing. It was just always kind of fun to pepper in there, you know.
For you, Josh, do you view Eddie as the closest thing we have to an antagonist? Do you take exception to that about Eddie? I mean, are you protective of him?
I mean, I think every story needs a villain. And I think that, you know, you gotta, if you're gonna be a villain, you kind of gotta love a villain for being the villain, in a sense, you know. But I did try to bring more humanity and lovability to Eddie, because, you know, I remember seeing there was a quick description of my character on the first email I got about it. It was like bass player with a chip on his shoulder, and, you know, I tried approaching the script with just that as my inspiration, but I was like, there's got to be more here. And so, yeah, I wanted to try and figure out what it was that had kind of driven him to that point. And, yeah, and by the end of it, I went a very soppy route and decided that he just adores Billy from the beginning, but that Billy kind of skips over him a lot or puts him down, or perhaps like makes him feel like he's not being seen as a peer, perhaps. And so that kind of gave me this...
Sam, do you have something to say? Would you like to apologize to your friend?
It was a thing that, because I was obviously so aware of his beautiful performance, and it was a question I kept asking to the directors: is how aware is Billy that he's completely besotted with his wife? And they were like, Billy's blissfully unaware about any of it. You know, he's just completely like in his own world and dealing with his own issues. But yeah, I mean, it's such a beautiful performance. I'm Team Eddie all the way, honestly.
I just wanted to bring a bit more humanity to it, but you did some great stuff for me in enabling me to be able to do that. In those moments, like you'll see, I think it's in the first episode, and it's like, he's going. It might have got cut out actually, but there was a bit where he's going around the circle. He's going, "All right, Warren, what do you think? Who are you playing for tonight?" And we're in a circle, and he goes, "Warren, Will." Skips over me, goes to the next person, and I'm like, nobody else would notice that.
I feel like what people don't notice sometimes is that Eddie is right. Like, Eddie is right. Even specifically when he's like, you made us a soft rock band. It's like, that is what happened. They do become a soft rock band. And Eddie is trying to hold the line and trying to see like where music is going, and no one's listening to him. And that's one of the things that I think.
Justice for Eddie. Come on, guys.
I know. But like I did, like, certainly in the book, and I think it shows in the TV show that just because something, I mean, look, history is told by the winners, right? But like, Eddie multiple times brings up things that could have prevented the end of this story. And it's only once somebody else says it that people listen, you know? So like, I think Eddie, yeah, justice for Eddie.
I mean,
And we have a hashtag. We did it, guys. We do have another clip, as I teased, and this is going to showcase Simone in this one. So let's take a look at, this is from the next episode coming next week. So take a look, Daisy Jones and the Six.
Sang that song all night. The crazy thing is, they would have let me. Again? How many times are we gonna do this?
As many as we can. You only got for one song.
Maybe we should work on that.
Maybe we should.
Stop. People are watching. Sorry. One more time.
So talk to me a little bit about the pride you take in this character, the arc of Simone. What did you enjoy most? What was most challenging about the journey for Simone within this series, you think?
Well, I think I can say that maybe Simone is probably the most expanded upon character from book to screen.
Right.
You know, in the book, we kind of see her go from point A to point B, but there's like this huge gray area. And I knew that a lot of that was going to come from me as well, because I was very aware that I was one of the few Black voices in the space. So it was, for me, a lot about how it felt to tell that story in my body. But there was a lot of back and forth between like Scott and I, Riley and I, like just where's she from? Like just trying to find out who she is. And seeing this scene in particular, you know, for me, it was very important. I don't think all of it went in, but it was very important to try to do everything live, because these disco women were just working their asses off. They were doing so many shows a night. I mean, it's one thing, it's exhausting to play live for a long time, but vocally, it's huge. And there's one clip that I remember from this lovely woman who did background vocals for that Rolling Stones song.
Mary Clayton.
Yeah, Mary.
Yes.
Give Me Shelter.
They ain't a murder. You can hear when her vocals are isolated, you can hear her voice cracking, because they called her in the middle of the night, like, "Are you ready? Can you do this?" And she was like sleeping or pregnant, and she went in and just like belted her ass off. So I don't think everything went in, but it was very important to do everything live.
And a lot of it went in. Like a lot of Nabia's live on set vocals are featured in the show, which is they're pretty incredible.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, how often do you get to see a beautiful, joyful love story between two Black women? I mean, and I want to mention also my co-star Aisha. You know, it was also very important to get her experience as, you know, just embodying the sort of producer role, which was a very white male-centric role. You know, and just two women creating a new genre and what it was like navigating really the music industry. One, as a queer Black woman, and then two, just trying to push a new sound to the mainstream, and how that would sound foreign to most ears. And you know, it's interesting to see that clip as well, because so much of her body language changes. You know, the soul singing in episode 2, we get to see "Song for You," and it's a very like poised. You know, it's very, you know, there's very few hand gestures, and it's very kind of, you know, centered. And you kind of see her slowly kind of swiggling putting a little bit more
Swagger.
swagger into it, and just the relationship, the sense of community, really, and how you get to see her interacting with other people other than Daisy, and little nuances, the fact that she might, without giving spoilers, she might know the people that are there, and so that was super important and fun.
Amazing.
It was
yeah, please.
also something that we worked really hard on in the episode was what's the effect of finding your community, right? Because disco, even though it's still predominantly our kind of viewpoint on it culturally, often comes from like Saturday Night Fever, that kind of thing. It is a music that came out of predominantly Black queer spaces, right? And even though it is sometimes dismissed as being substanceless, it comes from the urge for marginalized groups to say, despite what the world is giving us, we're just going to dance, which is a revolutionary statement. So, I mean, as we sit here also in Texas in the middle of the biggest rollback in LGBTQ rights in the last 2 decades, like it's really worth thinking about what those spaces mean and how they can transform us and how they can transform our culture. And I think Nabia and Aisha spent so much time becoming familiar with that history. The club in the show is called Better Days, which was a club that T. Scott was the primary DJ for. It was a Black, predominantly queer club where a lot of early disco music became prominent. And those stories still, we should know those names, and we don't. So that's just a little part of what we're trying to do with this story in the show.
Hell yeah.
Amazing. We've been talking about a lot of the interpersonal relationships on the show, and obviously the show, as much as it rests on the music, it doesn't work if these relationships don't work and the audience doesn't care about them. And we should talk at least a little bit. We've referenced Riley, but it's such a powerhouse performance from Riley Keough, and a side of her we've never seen. And I'm curious, Sam, for you, this relationship is a fraught, passionate, very interesting relationship, to say the least. Talk to me a little bit about how you connected with Riley on the scenes between Billy and Daisy.
It was so strange. We had like 3 months of band rehearsals before we even started filming. And then, of course, when we started filming, Daisy and Simone were doing their sort of storyline, and we as the Six were doing ours. So there was like 2 months of never seeing Riley again. I was like, I don't know if this is ever happening. What's going on? But then I can't remember the first scene we did. I think it might have been at Teddy's house. And the sequence in sort of episode 5, and it was like these pretty much like a week of me and her intensively kind of figuring out how each other worked, how we ticked. But she's such an incredible woman as well as actress, and so easygoing and so collaborative and so just joyful and fun and easy, and I don't know, I have nothing but nice things to say about her, really. It was just very it was just such an easy, organic it was easy to fall in love with her, if you all pretend to be in love with her.
It was interesting also that because as a band we did not interact with her until I believe she came into the studio. So you see all of us standing there in the booth like trying to see what's about to happen. And
no acting required.
Waiting for this moment, like in reality, and we're seeing it through the little window in the booth. It feels like I'm watching a play, and it's a really special moment for us all,
And also, I'd just add that both, I feel, Sam and Riley were just fantastic leaders on this show and really set an incredible tone. And you echoed a lot of that easygoing and just powerhouse energy right back, I feel.
It is so important, to give justice to the responsibility of what it's like to be number 1 and number 2 on the call sheet, because through osmosis we can kind of like feel the energy of the group, feel the direction that it's going. And I had a few moments with everyone, but they were enough to make me feel like we were really a team and we really do have each other's back.
I will say this is such a hard-working group of people, sort of on camera and behind the camera, from production design to wardrobe to location scouting. I mean, we used so many locations. We took over Sunset Boulevard, and then the production design team brought it back to the 70s, which was pretty amazing. And then in New Orleans, transforming all of those spaces, the work that was done in Greece. It really, and it does start with number 1, number 2 on the call sheet, because the bar is so high, and it inspires everyone to bring their best and do their best every single day. And we had a lot of days on the show. This was a lot of time that we spent together, and I've just never seen a group of people work so hard and always come with so much energy and such excitement for the work. It was really a singular experience.
I mean, I was saying to you guys earlier, right? Like, I mean, I follow all you guys on social media, and I feel like for the last 2 years, I've been seeing you like post about each other. I'm like, I get it. You get along. You're having fun. Cool.
I'll never forget. We had like a dinner just before COVID hit. We all sat as a cast, and we went out for a dinner, and it was like, I remember in that moment, the first time we were all sat together, I was like, this is really like a special group of people. It just felt very special, even in that moment. And then obviously a year and a half later, we were still all in a WhatsApp group and on Zoom and trying to keep in contact. And Josh was sort of piecing these videos together that we were like doing to make like music videos, basically, of our early days of rehearsals. It was just like a really, honestly, like just a family, and I feel very, very fortunate.
So let's not end it, folks, because we know what everyone here wants. The chatter is loud. The tour, for real.
Everyone just throws the microphones
I
to
don't
the
know.
audience.
Our Amazon friends are here. I guess just tweet about it. Let's go. Let's, whatever the equivalent of a petition is, let's start it, because we would love to tour. That would be so fun. But right now, the first thing to do really is watch all the episodes, tell everybody you know to watch all the episodes, and definitely, go on social media and make those requests, because I do think people are listening, and certainly it would be our dream to get a little something like that going.
Who would have the most extreme rider? Who has like the pink M&Ms like that they demand on the actual tour?
Will Harrison. Just kidding.
100% Will, just because he's not here to defend himself.
Right. I asked for some questions from the fans online, so I want to ask at least a couple of these. We want to know everyone's favorite song from Aurora.
That would be Kill You to Try for me, I think. Very intense, complex drum part, sweating, octopus drummer type thing. And it also starts with just bass and drums, so we have a little moment to shine, so that's great.
The River.
I struggle to choose one, honestly. I know that's like corny to say, but every time I'm asked this question in interviews, I tend to give a different answer. At the moment, the one I'm going back and going, oh, please. I know that was a tricky one for you, Sam. But
that
I
need
used
to be
to listen to that in...
And that's why.
No.
just want to watch him suffer.
No, I used to drive. Always used to drive to Sound City for our rehearsals, and I'd listen to the whole album on the way, and I'd try and sing along to my bass parts. But Please just always had this like pulse to it that just I found very intoxicating.
This is the moment. This is where I sing.
Here we go, guys. It's happening.
Here we go.
We're doing it.
Yeah, my favorite song is "Look at Us Now." I think that no matter how many times I hear that song, and I think there was a moment where I hated it almost as much as Billy does, just because it was the amount of times I was singing it. I was like, oh my lord. But no, I do the journey that it takes you on, the change of pace, or the seemingly change of pace, and the end. It's just a masterful piece.
I remember that was one of the later songs that was written, and we all listened to it together in the studio, and we're all like kind of, and then and you're like, oh my god, and like the tempo changes, and the drama of it is like, it hit us all at the same time. It was great.
I will say there was like some funny moments, because obviously that was a song that thanks to the way that Taylor described it in the book, put a lot of pressure on us to find.
My job is just to write the book.
I have to say there were so many moments actually in this story. The amount of times I would sort of read the sides And they'd be like, Billy plays for the rest of the band. It's the best song they've ever done. And he's never sounded better. And
No pressure, no pressure.
Oh my God, the pressure mounting. And then no worries. Be like, just try it like this. And I'm like, okay. Singing live, going a cappella. Everyone going, go on. All these guys are musical geniuses, and there's me going, I don't know how to play the guitar.
I can sympathize and relate with that. I mean, in one of the recent episodes, I kind of auditioned to be the lead singer, and I do have a lot of musical experience, but that's probably the only time that I really step up to the mic and sing, and that was hugely nerve-wracking for me because in the script it's saying that the guys are looking around in the band,
Like, hey, he's not bad.
actually pretty good. I think we got the best song ever, not the best performance ever. It's all right.
I think on the day
that
we
was
we
nerve-wracking.
got the note to not break your balls so much at the end. I remember at the end of the scene, I'm like, hey, well, we'll maybe get you a callback or something. And they're like, hey, you did a really good job. Could you guys congratulate him? And
He's already stepped
right.
Wait, I also want to know, Taylor, do you have, without putting you on the spot, do you have a favorite song from the show?
I do. And it's changed in the past week. No, I know. Stay tuned. At first, it was very clearly "Let Me Down Easy." I just think it's the catchiest song, and that's the one that I wake up and it's in my head, but because my daughter has been making me listen to the album so much, I think the dark horse here is "You Were Gone," which doesn't get a lot of attention. But if you sit with that song for a minute, that's the most Christine McVie vibes that we're getting on the album, and it really, it grows on you. It's really good.
Our time is short. Is there anything else we should tease, folks? You talked a little bit about this upcoming episode in episode 7. What are you excited for fans to see in these last 4 episodes, guys? Lauren?
The finale. Get a lot of Kleenexes out. I mean, really. And episodes 1 and 2, we're telling you so much. We're setting so much up. And then, 3 through 9, we're taking you on that roller coaster ride. But episode 10 really brings everything together in such a wonderful, emotional way that's such a testament to everybody's work and to Taylor's vision. But I will say, even the guys that are unbelievable sound mixers who had been working for weeks to make this is a really tough sound show because of all of the music and the live performances and everything. But when we played it down the last time, they were all weeping. And it was the coolest thing. It was just so wonderful. So I'm very excited for you guys to see it.
Yes.
He concurs. We all concur.
I agree. I'm excited for you to watch all of them many times.
There you go.
Turn it back on and watch it again.
Look, we've made a lot of progress here
coming
today.
up too, like what's coming out on Friday. The episode in Greece, I think, is just so exciting. But also, as Will was saying, there's such joy in what you're about to see in terms of finding a community and the disco sound that is coming, that it's one of my favorite episodes, and I'm so excited for people to see it.
It's funny, actually, the first conversation that we had that I was in about the show with Taylor, we were like, what are you excited to see more of in the show than you could do in the book? And she said more of Simone.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
here we go.
It just delivers. It's one of my favorite parts of the show, and I think you saw it in the clip, but there's just a joy that explodes. Every episode is great, but there's not a dud in the bunch, and so each one just getting better and better. I'm just very excited for everyone to see each and every episode.
Look, guys, we've accomplished a lot here today. Not only have we spread the good word of your show, we've started a hashtag, Justice for Eddie. What's the hashtag for playing live? Is it like Daisy Jones Live? What do we do? I don't even know.
Sam could do it right now.
Sam? We have 80 seconds left.
Happy birthday.
Give it up for this amazing cast and creators. Daisy Jones and the Six. Thank you, guys. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for coming.